Let's see what our Lord and Savior
Chef JG
is talking about.
It to continue to be good, you have to check on.
Yeah, I think that's what Dan is so great at. He certainly knows that that what could possibly hurt us is thinking like, oh, we'll just show up week one and do it again. I don't believe for a second that'll be our attitude, but that's like human nature to think that way. So he's been on us, and we appreciate it, and we've been on ourselves. We've been holding each other to a higher standard and higher accountability, and it's been fun to see leaders emerge. And I'm trying to every day to be better myself, and but yeah, I think Dan kind of makes sure that'll never happen.
I think the reason why I didn't think we were playing that one, because I feel like we knew that. If anybody questioned this as a fallacy or anything that was just like a short little Cinderella story or anything cute, they have not been paying attention to the transition this team has made. There's nothing cute, nothing sweet. This isn't the 2022 Minnesota Vikings where they're just winning every single game by 1 point, and then they had a home game and they lost to Daniel Jones, who had like 300-plus yards, multiple touchdowns on the game. Multiple touchdowns on the ground, multiple touchdowns. This is not that. No, this is a team that battled through adversity. We talked about the expression Dan Campbell made for a little bit last year. In 2021, that Ben Johnson drew back to is like, hey, we're in the waters, but we're in the Arctic. There's icebergs. It's snowing. It's hailing. It's ugly. It's muddy. But the captain's got this ship steady forward, and there's sunshine and rainbows headed that way. And they've made to that point. They've crawled out of the abyss where it's so much easy to give up, especially in a franchise that's never done anything. They didn't. They arose from that. And not only did they arise from that, you saw it in the second half of 2022, but they also carried that into last year's 2023 season. And then they just happened to make the NFC Conference Championship game in the process. Like, they're going to take another step. That's how this team is going to be. The only way, I'll put you this way, I see zero regression. Yeah. Straight up. There's no way I can see regression. The only thing stopping this team is, one, either themselves and making mistakes in game, or just losing to a better man. But there will be no regression. There was no flash in the pan. Nick, I'm just let it hit real quick because I know you put this in the prep. You had to have something to cook up on this one, the Jared Goff comments.
Yeah, I mean, I threw it in there just because it's obvious that this team doesn't have that mindset. But you know who probably didn't have that mindset either? The Rams after they made the Super Bowl. Following year, 9-7. Like, teams get there. We saw it with the Bengals. Didn't they not get back? Burrow got hurt on that. But I'm saying, everybody has to be on the same page. I think they are, and I think they will be. But we've seen teams regress before. I don't think anybody in this room, I don't think anybody in this city believes that they will regress. But you have to think about a first-place schedule now. You're going up against the best of the best around the NFL. This team needs to be ready for it, and obviously they cannot buy into their own hype.
Yeah. Chris,
this is where I want to take, because I don't even want to do the who would be likely to regress, because I don't think any of these sophomores are likely to hit a regression. True. I mean, if anything, people would probably point to Jack Campbell, but that's just because Jack Campbell didn't have the most spectacular rookie year compared to others. But I expect a big jump there. So, to me, I don't even want to be disrespectful and ask, who's gonna regress, because I'm with you guys. I don't see regression. To me, I want to totally flip this question and see who do you see progressing more given the situation. Is it Gibbs that Nick is talking about potentially being a borderline MVP candidate and one of the best running backs in the league? Or is it Sam Laporta, who now there will be catches, there will be more opportunities with the departure of Josh Reynolds, and he could certainly be a guy that Goff counts on, especially early on in the season while he develops chemistry with some of the other receivers. So who would you say would you expect a bigger jump from?
And that's the beautiful thing about this team. That's why no one's even thinking or blinking at the word regression, just because there's so many situations where guys can take a leap, and there's so many like A to B reasons why. There's not just you're guesstimating it. No, as a former player, and I obviously didn't play collegiately or anything like that, but just understanding football, DJ Reader, it helps a lot of people take steps. Yeah. On top of them just naturally taking steps. You'd mentioned Jack Campbell. If anybody's talking about a regression from Jack Campbell, just do yourself a favor. All right. Find the bathroom, close the door, take a look in the mirror, and spit in that guy's face.
I thought you were gonna.
That is just this stupid statement to make, especially again. It's very similar to the Detroit Lions trajectory. Is that it was bad. Rocky got better and better and better. That's what the trajectory that Jack Campbell's on right now, right? Didn't start last year, but ended the season as a starting linebacker, not due to injury because he busted his ass to make it that way. So, but he's gonna get better from a guy named DJ Reader, right? You got Brian Branch is gonna get better from Jack Campbell getting better. You got Kirby Joseph, who's going to get better from Brian Branch and Jack Campbell and DJ Reader. And I'm saying it's that's why football is one of the most beautiful sports in my mind. One of my favorite sports is because like it's the team. It's the ultimate team game in my opinion. Like you can have a Barry Sanders, and maybe that's the bad example because that's a bad man.
Yeah.
You can have a Jahmyr Gibbs. Best example. You can have a Jared Goff, right? But without that offensive line keeping him protected, it's more Jared Goff. You know what I'm saying? But because it's a team game, right? That offensive line keeps him protected. He's able to stay in that pocket. He doesn't have to maneuver around to recreate pockets to get those throws off. No, he stands there. He takes a hit and he shoots him down the middle. And then doing so, he's got people talking about him as the top 5 guy. Yeah. It's the ultimate team sport. So I can't singularly pick out one person taking the biggest leap. That's tough for me to do on the spot, to be honest with you. Probably Jack Campbell or maybe
out of the sophomores. Yeah. Out of the sophomores or everybody?
Out of the sophomores.
Sophomores?
Out of the sophomores.
Who's it for you, Nick? The biggest leap.
The biggest leap is Jahmyr Gibbs out of the sophomores. I think he was already turning into a star. I think he's a bona fide superstar this season. I do think Jack Campbell can turn from a average linebacker, which I would say he was last year, into a pretty darn good one, in his sophomore year. But I think for me, it's got to be Gibbs. I think you drafted him top 12 for a reason. You saw him a little hesitant at some spots last year where maybe he wasn't as confident going over the middle and fully catching the ball, maybe pulling his head up a little too early and not, actually securing it. And then we saw him slip on some big some potential big runs. So I think, he'll get his feet planted where he needs to this season. And he's going to complete all of those plays that he almost did. And he's not going to get hawked again, like he said in that podcast with the St. Brown brothers. He's taken off the distance.
Yeah. I think for me, it's going to be, and I want to get you juices too. For me, I think it is going to be Gibbs just because I think that Gibbs is not only going to take a step up with running the ball, but I think he's also, think about all the drops he had early in the season and how much progression you can get from his passing game. Remember, Ben Johnson said this guy is a weapon. They didn't see him as just a running back. They saw him as a weapon. And where I think he has a lot of room to improve is catching the ball and making plays that way. So I think it is Gibbs, even though Monty is there and he will still split the load, which is a good thing to keep both of them fresh for hopefully what is supposed to be a very long season. But I would go with Gibbs just because I think there's more room to grow. I think Laporta, it's only more opportunity, and so there is room for growth. But ultimately, I think Laporta is really good at what he's supposed to be good at, and there's not much more to add to his game right now. What do you think, Jesus?
See, I think that the hype is already there with Gibbs, and I think that all of us around this room believe that he already is at least a top 5 running back in the NFC. Arguably, for me, he's a top 5 running back where I think he'll be at the end of this season in the entire NFL. So for me, that's not that big of a jump. The person who I really think is going to make a big jump, and I think halfway through the season, you could see something interesting happen in the linebacker room where we start transitioning as Anzalone as our main linebacker to Jack Campbell starting to maybe ease on the reins and starting to get eased into that role for the future.
Yeah, that's 100% where I'm at. Like, we had already talked about Gibbs halfway through last season. Not maybe halfway, but whatever point in the season as him being this top 10, top 5 guy. Laporta, same conversation. Like, we already knew like where they at in terms of making a jump. Like, Gibbs will have a bigger statistical jump because he's just going to see more carries naturally.
Yep.
And obviously, I think he's going to grow a little bit in the passing game too. But the guy who makes the most growth in my mind is Jack Campbell. I think we're already reading a little bit of those things too. Brian Branch. I guess I kind of put him in the same category as Laporta and Gibbs, where you already kind of had these expectations or saw, a bit of it, right? Like, I actually shout out to my guys in our fantasy football chat, but they were talking about it yesterday, just like the pick 6.
Yeah, that was such a moment.
The KC game, home opener against the defending Super Bowl champions, like, what a moment.
Yeah.
Like, who gave you that moment? Brian Branch. So I think some of that was already there, but Nick, I guess you sounded like you want to make the case for him. I'll allow you to do that after this next phone call, whoever we got going on.
For me, that first pick, that pick 6 against Kansas City, really just set the bar high. It set the bar high. It put him at superstardom, and that was something that he wasn't able to consistently maintain. He had some injuries and stuff like that. But again, he's a rookie, but he showed the moments. And in your first couple years of any job you do, or your first couple weeks, you always want to show moments. You're not expected to put it all together and hit the ground running. You're not expected to do that. Nobody really is at their job. That's what separates the greats. But ultimately, you want to see moments, because if you see moments from a player at a very young age, especially their first game on the road against the Super Bowl champions, I mean, come on, that gives you all the confidence you should know that it is not a matter of if this guy will put it together, it's when.
I think that's interesting because it really depends on if they truly move him to safety or if they play him in that nickel role. For me, I think that depends on his stat output. And I just think he's got such an impact being so versatile on this defense as spending, let's say, versatility. But, I love Brian Branch, and I think he's such a big addition to this team. He's a playmaker, and when you're a playmaker, you make plays, and I think Nick is ready to go to our phone calls.
Just real quick before that, I think if I were to pick one of the 3 guys I said, honestly, it'd be like a crazy jump. Yeah. I probably, Branch, obviously, maybe I don't know, it's between Branch and Laporta. The only reason why I say Laporta is traditionally tight ends don't do what Laporta did in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Traditionally, it takes him like 2-3 years to get going on those type of numbers. So like, if he could take a jump from that would be crazy. Because, it's a tight end friendly offense, but he's also still growing,